Daniel suddenly woke up in a panic, sitting on his bed. His breathing was fast, and a strange fear was evident on his face. He grabbed his cell phone from the side table, checked the time, picked the water bottle, and took a few sips to relax himself. He just looked at his wife Jennifer. She was in deep sleep right beside him. Then he laid back on his bed again, trying to sleep unsuccessfully. The reason for his waking up afraid was the dream he had seen for the third time in the past 7 days. Not just worried, but terrified this time. He dreamt of pushing a girl standing on the edge of a high cliff by the seaside into the deep sea. The screams of that girl were still echoing in Daniel's ears, and the voice seemed somewhat familiar, yet he couldn't recognize whose voice it was, nor could he see the face of that girl in his dream. The repetitive occurrence of that dream had become a source of mental distress for him. Once again he checked the time. It was 2 o'clock in the night. Sleep had escaped his eyes, but he laid on the bed, tossing and turning continuously, never knowing when sleep would finally claim him. Daniel's wife Jennifer woke him up. As Daniel opened his eyes, Jennifer said, "It's already 10 in the morning. Don't you have any plan to get up?" "What would I do waking up? Whereas I don't even go to office now." Daniel said that in a quite sad tune. "You freshen up, I'm making breakfast," Jennifer said, pulling the curtains off the window, letting the sun rays to enlighten the room. "Real estate agent didn't call?" Daniel asked as he got up from the bed. "No, there wasn't any call from any real estate agent." "Have you received some response from any property dealer?" Jennifer inquired. "Yes, real estate agent Steve told me. He has an investor who is interested in buying your land. He'll finalize the deal and let you know by calling early in the morning." Daniel married to Jennifer about 3 years ago. Jennifer was a well-educated girl and used to work at her uncle's real estate office. She mostly handled the clients there, so she was quite familiar with the ins and outs of property buying and selling. However, after getting married, she quit that job. Daniel was quite distressed those days because he was also jobless. His relations with the general manager at the private company where he worked remained significantly strained. After enduring months of mental anguish, one day he engaged in a heated argument with his general manager, which led to his dismissal. Not only he was fired, but he was also publicly humiliated in front of the entire staff. On that day, Daniel decided he would not work for anyone else. Instead, he would start his own business. However, he didn't have enough capital to start the business. He owned a piece of land that he intended to sell to finance his venture. But despite reaching out to several real estate dealers, the land remained unsold. With each passing day, Daniel's distress increased. Even investors known to Jennifer, whom she had approached, showed no interest in purchasing the land at the moment. When Daniel came out after taking bath, Jennifer informed him, "The real estate agent Steve just called. He is coming with the guy who is interested in buying our land. They are on the way to meet you at home." "That's good," Daniel exclaimed in happiness. The breakfast was set on the dining table. Daniel and Jennifer began eating together. As they were taking breakfast, Daniel's mind drifted back to the dream he had the night before. Once again, the haunting screams he had heard in his dream echoed in his ears. The entire scene began to replay before his eyes, and his momentary happiness turned into deep sadness. Daniel thought he should disburden his heart by sharing that whole dream with his wife. Daniel was just going to start the conversation about that. Suddenly he heard the ringing sound of the doorbell. He left his dining chair and headed towards the door. Upon opening it, he found the real estate agent Steve standing there. Daniel greeted him warmly, but his enthusiasm faded away when Steve introduced the man beside him as Mr. William, interested in purchasing the land. Daniel glanced at the man's face. Despite his reluctance, he responded handshake. Steve and his client William had already entered in Daniel's house, and he had no choice but to escort them to the drawing room. "William has already visited your land, and he is ready to buy it in cash. I have already told them the price you demanded. You just need to sit down with us face to face and sign the agreement," Steve told Daniel happily. William was smiling strangely as he looked at Daniel, much like Daniel was being scrutinized. "But I don't want that price for my land now," Daniel said abruptly. "What do you mean?" Steve asked shockingly. Just before your arrival, I received a call from another real estate agent. He has offered me more money, even more than my demand, Daniel disclosed. If it's a matter of a couple $100,000 more, I'd happily pay that, William replied with a sarcastic tone. Well, this matter seems to be resolved as well, Steve exclaimed joyfully once again, his eyes hinting at the assurance of his commission. I'm not talking about a couple $100,000, I'm getting a lot more money, Daniel said in a harsh tone. How much more money are you getting? William inquired. Leave it. How much more money I'm getting? Right now I'm going to negotiate with that party. If I can't make a deal with them, then I'll think about your offer, Daniel said, as if he wanted both of them to leave immediately. Expressing his frustration, Steve said, I don't understand you at all. We spoke on the phone just a while ago, and I brought a customer as per your demand, and now your attitude is completely unexpected. Daniel told that, right after your call, another real estate agent called me, offering a higher price. I offer you $500,000 more than your demand, William said, laying one of his legs over the other. We're wasting our time with these discussions, Daniel replied in cold words. He stood up from his place, and so did Steve. Mr. Daniel, the real estate market is in a severe crisis nowadays. You're not doing the right thing by turning away a potential buyer who is ready to buy at higher price than your demand. We will talk about it later. Daniel's tone lacked any softness. His face carried more stiffness than before. Steve and William stepped towards the exit door and left the house. Jennifer, who had been listening all the conversation standing outside, entered the drawing room at that moment and exclaimed angrily, What have you done? Your land was about to be sold for cash, and that too, $500,000 more than your asking price, and you made up a false excuse. Jennifer was extremely bewildered. Daniel remained silent for a few moments, then suddenly burst out in anger. Do you know who was that guy along with real estate agent? Who wanted to buy my land? Who was that? Jennifer asked with questioning eyes. He was William, general manager of that company where I had been working, the same general manager who humiliated me and got me fired. If he would have offered me even double the amount I demanded, yet I would have refused to sell him my land. Didn't you notice the tone of his voice? It still carried the same disdain for me. Your hatred, your anger, put that aside. Consider that we are in desperate need of money. Our savings are depleting rapidly. The real estate market is in severe crisis right now. After a long wait of weeks, a buyer came and you turned him away recklessly. I might starve, but I will never sell my land to William. Never! Daniel shouted in anger and walked out. Jennifer sat there, shocked and distressed. Daniel received about 3 calls from real estate agent Steve until that night, each time trying to persuade him to sell his land to William. However, Daniel kept deflecting, stating that he is already in negotiations with another party. After that, Steve stopped calling him. Another week passed by without any call from any real estate dealer. Daniel reached out to all the real estate agents within his reach, but everyone was lamenting the real estate crisis. Now Daniel's distress was escalating further because his savings were running out, and there was no other buyer for the land. While having dinner, Jennifer asked Daniel, Have you checked how much money is left in your bank account? Daniel didn't respond to Jennifer's question. Just give up your anger and sell your land to William, Jennifer urged. Shut up. If you even mention his name again, keep your advice to yourself. Saying this, Daniel left the dining table and went to his bedroom. The next morning, when Daniel woke up, Jennifer informed him that last night she talked to her uncle, in whose real estate office she had been working. He always has many investors in contact. He assured me that he would soon get your land booked. Daniel expressed some relief upon hearing that update. Next day and afternoon, Jennifer informed Daniel that her uncle called and told he has found an investor interested in buying Daniel's land. The investor is willing to buy in cash. However, Uncle explained that he would be out of the city for a few days due to some important matters, but he has scheduled a meeting with that investor at the beach resort tomorrow at 2 o'clock. He has provided the resort's address and asked us to meet the investor there. Upon hearing this news, Daniel became delighted and said, No problem, we'll go there ourselves to finalize the deal for our land. Jennifer responded with excitement, "Absolutely. After finalizing the deal, we'll enjoy a nice meal there. I love eating in restaurants located by the seaside on the tall mountains." When Daniel listened the words seaside and tall mountains, he was suddenly taken aback. The terrifying scene from that recurring nightmare began to play out again in his mind. However, he didn't let his anxiety show to Jennifer and continued planning for the next day with her. That night, Daniel had another dream that he was sitting at a railway station waiting for a train. A girl passed by him talking to someone on her phone, one of her shoes perfectly intact while the heel of the other one was broken. In the morning, when Daniel woke up, he was quite confused because of that strange dream. However, he just tried to forget it off and headed toward the kitchen, where Jennifer was busy in preparing breakfast. Daniel mentioned his plan to swiftly head to the beach resort to arrive before 2 o'clock, ensuring their customer wouldn't have to wait. Jennifer nodded in agreement, proposing they should opt the train route. "That is more efficient than a bus, and we will also enjoy the train journey," she remarked. As Daniel heard about the train, the dream he had the night before came flooding back, leaving him feeling unsettled, though he kept his thoughts to himself. They both had breakfast and got ready. While leaving the house, Daniel was ahead when Jennifer suddenly stopped. Daniel turned around and saw Jennifer was bent over. He asked, "What happened?" Jennifer explained, "One of her shoe's heel is just broken." It jolted Daniel like a lightning bolt because waiting for the train at the railway station and seeing a girl passed by with a broken heel, these were exactly the things he had seen in his dream last night. He stood there in shock while Jennifer went inside, saying that she would quickly change her shoes. Shortly, Jennifer returned after changing her shoes. They both stepped out of the house, hailed a taxi, and headed towards the railway station. Along the way, distressful thoughts were constantly bothering Daniel. A fear stuck in his mind that his other dream might also come true, the one where he pushes a girl into the sea. Meanwhile, they arrived at the railway station, purchased their tickets, boarded the train, and set off towards their destination. While on the way, Jennifer received a call. She listened that call a little away from Daniel's seat. Daniel, entangled in his own misgiving thoughts, didn't notice when Jennifer received the call and when she moved away to listen. Anyway, after an hour's journey, they arrived at the designated location, which was a beach resort, amazingly nestled on the edge of a towering cliff nearby seashore. Daniel and Jennifer reached there half an hour before their scheduled meeting, so they sat at a wooden table in the resort's open area, awaiting their customer to finalize the deal. Daniel found that place strangely familiar, although he had never been to that area before. Upon closer inspection, he remembered that this was the same place he had seen in his horrifying dream 3 times. Daniel noticed a newlywed couple sitting at a nearby table. His heart started pounding as he saw the woman's shoes. They were silver, the same color as the shoes worn by the girl he had seen in his dream, the one he pushed into the sea. Each blurry character from his horror dream was manifesting before him, adding to his anxiety. Yet, amid his turmoil, he was questioning himself. Why would he throw a young, beautiful lady into the sea, whom he neither knew nor had ever encountered before? Meanwhile, a black raven perched on a small fencing nearby and started cawing loudly. The sound pierced through Daniel's ears, because it was the same sound he had heard 3 times in his dream when he was pushing a girl into the ocean. Daniel's anxiety escalated, adding to his distress. Daniel's fear was grown so intense that he was compelled to tell his wife Jennifer, "I'm feeling really uneasy here. Let's leave." "Why are you feeling anxious?" Jennifer asked calmly. "I'm not sure. Let's just go from here," Daniel replied, clearly distressed. Jennifer reminded him that her uncle had already talked to the investor. If they left without meeting him, Uncle would be disappointed, and the opportunity to sell the land would slip away again. Upon hearing this, Daniel fell silent. Jennifer said, "You must be feeling anxious because of traveling. Here's what you should do. Take a glass of fresh juice for yourself and for me also. Drinking cool juice will help you to get relaxed. Meanwhile, I'll take some selfies of this beautiful scenery with my phone." Daniel, reluctant but compliant, got up and headed towards the juice corner. After a while, when he returned with the juice, Jennifer was busy in phone call with someone. Her back was turned toward Daniel, therefore she couldn't see him coming. Daniel approached her intending to address her, but just then he overheard Jennifer saying on the phone, "Thank you, Mr. William. I appreciate it. I'm selling my husband's land to you based on my experience. Please send the money through your agent quickly so that we can finalize the deal soon to avoid any complication." Daniel's anger boiled over upon hearing this. He grabbed Jennifer's shoulder roughly and turned her towards him in a wild manner, shouting, "You're betraying me! You're selling my land to the person I hate the most!" His eyes blazed with rage. Jennifer was utterly taken aback. "Daniel, please forgive me. I got carried away by the greed for higher bid. I was worried about our financial situation getting worse," she pleaded. However, Daniel remained deaf to her pleas, attempting to push her over the fence in desperation. Jennifer begged and struggled to free herself from his grip. Her cries were echoing in the air, the familiar screams Daniel couldn't recognize in his dream. Now it became clear to him those cries belonged to his wife. Daniel was quite powerful, having strong muscles. Finally, he lifted Jennifer and threw her down from the high cliff, handing over to the merciless waves of deep sea. As Jennifer struggled to save herself, one of her shoes slipped off her foot. When Daniel noticed the shoe that was fallen behind, he stood there frozen, staring at that shoe. It was exactly the same silver-colored shoe that the girl wore in his recurring horror dream.